with this video.
Hi, and
Surprise! We're not on the same page entirely, but that's okay.
Hi, and Jones.
Hi.
What are we going to talk about today?
I know you want to talk about
Double ending.
maybe. Yes.
It sounds scandalous, doesn't it?
Only when you say it.
Oh, well, it's scandalous when everybody says it. So
It's actually kind of scandalous when it happens sometimes in my mind.
it's true. So
It's not as dirty as it sounds, but it has far-reaching implications potentially.
so when a realtor says that they have double-ended a deal, what does that mean?
Depends on what realtor you're talking about.
That's true. Okay.
Okay, no. So when this comes up, usually it means they've handled both sides. That means they've represented, well, they may not have represented both the buyer and the seller, but they've listed and sold the home.
They've
What it
listed
amounts
and
to.
sold the home. So let's say in a normal deal, Anne lists a house. And it's
Yay,
super
for Anne.
cute. So my buyer and I come along and we get her down on the price a little bit, but we
They
get
tend
it.
to negotiate us.
We get it. And, you know, Anne has already negotiated a commission with the seller of a certain amount. And then she gives half of that to me. And I fight for the rights of the buyer. And she fights for the rights of the seller. And in the end,
Everybody hopefully ends up happy. That's the goal, always.
Yes, always. But let's say my clients haven't met me yet. They haven't met the buyer's agent of their destiny.
And they walk into one of my open houses. And we have a really pleasant conversation.
And they
and
fall in love.
It's like that, you know, right from the beginning. And I already have a listing agreement with the seller.
You
So
have-
I've got...
And has to represent the seller. She doesn't have a choice.
I have an agency relationship
Mm-hmm.
as defined by the state. So they walk in, we hit it off, we're kind of romancing, you know, and they don't mention that Marguerite is their agent. That's a whole other conversation for
Let's say
another
they
time.
don't have an agent.
Maybe they don't have an agent
They
yet.
don't have. They've never met me.
And they say, we love it, and this market is moving so fast
And they
that
say,
we better
we want it.
we better write it up right now
Mhm.
because we don't want anybody else to get it. And I write up the deal.
What happens then?
Well, first of all, by the way, I don't do this, but
I-
that's a side
Anne's not into
story.
double ending.
Okay, So if that were to happen, you have to make a choice at that point whether. So I already represent the seller. Do I represent the buyer as well?
You
So-
can't represent the buyer.
Well, you can. You can have dual agency.
You have dual agency, but
But what does that
ultimately,
What does it mean to have dual agency?
this is what buyers need to understand: is that Anne is super nice, and I don't think she would ever do anything to hurt you. She loves you. But she can really only represent the seller in that situation. She has to look out for the seller's best interest. So let's say you tell her, we love this house, we'd love to offer $250, even though it's listed at $270, but we can afford $270 if we have to. She's gonna tell the seller,
I'm obligated.
she's
to tell the
legally
seller.
obliged to tell the seller that you can go to $270. And that is
Why is that?
because you had the relationship with the seller first.
And the other important part about agency relationship is I have a duty of confidentiality to the seller that I don't have to the buyer unless I represent them. And that's when it gets really messy because how do you do that well and fairly for both sides? I don't think there's an easy way to do that.
I think we're both people of high integrity. I think we want to treat people really well and take really good care of people. You know, but you can't take good care of two people who are in that naturally combative situation of buying and selling. Like, it's just not possible.
Well, and
so
you may
what do
think-
we recommend to people? What should they do?
So if that happens to me and I've got an open house and somebody walks in, I will often refer them out to another agent that I trust and say, hey, have you heard of Marguerite? She could write this up for you.
Yeah.
You could choose to not have an agency relationship with the buyer. So maybe the buyer is an experienced real estate investor.
Yeah.
And they've done this a few times. They might have an attorney that they use. But you could potentially put the deal together but not represent them, and that way you don't have a conflict of interest. For me, you know, I like it when somebody else is representing them, but that's just the way I do things.
What I think we're trying to say is it's not like there's a right or a wrong way to do this, but if you're a buyer and you're looking for a house, especially if it's your first house and this is your first rodeo, it's a good idea to have somebody that's looking out for you and only you through the process. You don't want to be the person that got an okay deal on the house and the agent saying, I totally double-ended that house, and you didn't get represented. Gross. I feel like when I first started in real estate,
Yes.
I wanted to double end.
Okay,
It was
not
a dream
talk about this
to double
anymore.
end. But now I feel like it's not right. It makes me feel dirty.